Listen here, little piglets. Little
Hamsters.
hamsters. It's a neighborhood guys.
Neighborhood guys.
You understand? I'm trying to explain to you. It's a neighborhood guys. You catch me in the neighborhood. I'm usually around right at the corner having a nice quart of water or something. You understand what I'm trying to explain to you?
Throwing a potato sack over some unsuspecting victim's face and dragging him to the nearest bodega.
Really make sure she looks like the color of General Tso's chicken. You understand what I'm trying to explain to you?
General Tso's. General Tso's.
You know what I'm saying? I saw the general 2 weeks ago, and I told him, hey, listen, what happened to the landscaping? You
Was he the general or the surgeon general, emerging chemicals, emerging skeletal? What does that even mean?
You know, he's emerging chemicals, emerging skeletal, and he came up and said, listen, I can't even finish that because I'll get thrown out so quickly.
We almost sounded almost like almost like some old decrepit zombie speaking, like an old decrepit zombie. When I think of an old decrepit zombie speaking, I think of Donald Sterling. Frankie, how about you?
That's a
What do
good
you
one.
think of
What a way to get into that segment, huh? Like really brought that in. But that was great. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Don Sterling.
Don.
You smell
Stock's
that?
burning.
You smell that? That's your stock burning.
But you want to know what, man? A lot of people have been talking about Don Sterling, and obviously the things that he said were highly racist and disgusting and despicable.
Yeah.
But you know what? A lot of people I feel are not really talking about.
Jay-Z.
Well, who wants to talk about him? I just want to see him burn publicly, you know. But
so awesome.
what I want to really talk about this whole Don Sterling situation is because we've really beaten the racist nature of an 82-year-old man's comments into the ground.
Literally.
What about his girlfriend, man? What
I can't stand her.
I mean, just the fact of the matter is, in 2014, you can't even be a billionaire and pay off a woman millions and millions of dollars to be your trophy wife anymore. Because if you do pay them off to be your trophy wife, they'll still air you out. They're still not homemakers. They're home wreckers.
They're still stabbing you in the back.
That's the thing that just boggles my mind. Is this is a woman who clearly probably has the education of, I'd say probably of a bag of catnip. She has the education of a bag of catnip.
I was going to say a Chinese checkerboard.
A Chinese checkerboard. I'd say a ceiling fan. She may have the
She
may have the intelligence of a tape deck. Maybe the intelligence of a smelly sock, of a broken toe. Though that's the type of intelligence that she has. So she clearly lucked out by finding a billionaire and waxing him good and getting those dollar bills. And the dollar bills are not enough for you to just keep your mouth shut and just let the guy rot in peace, because that's really what he's doing.
Let him rot in his own racist ways, like
I
can't
mean,
you just let him be like a freelance racist?
I mean, and the thing is it's not like the guy was on the at the
Throwing
Staples
the
Center
N-word
like
around.
announcement. Black people leave. There's nothing like that. I mean, it was in the
No.
privacy of his own home. Frankie, I ask you to think about this for just 1 second.
Go ahead.
Could you imagine all of the people in this country and around the world, if we want to expand it, who would lose their job if they got recorded saying something at home that was inappropriate in the workplace? Think about how
every single race.
would anybody work?
Everyone.
Would
anyone.
anybody have a job?
No,
is my
absolutely
question.
not. Absolutely
now, I've
not.
heard the argument on sports talk radio that it's an exclusive club, to be an NBA franchise owner. It's an exclusive club.
God.
And listen, I understand it. It's a small, tight-knit billionaire club. But why is it that in today's world we always feel like we have the right to apply a different standard of conduct to rich people just because they're rich? Listen, I'm not rich, so for me to defend rich people, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. But the reality is, why is it that because somebody has money, they're open game to just any type of rule, throw the book at them?
And
but
it
if
doesn't
somebody
matter how much it doesn't matter how much you find them, because it's not enough because they have money anyway. So when he loses $2.5 million and you take that away from him, people are saying, well, that's chump change, as if like taking $5 away from me is chump change. It's just it doesn't. Regardless of what you're doing, you're still taking money away from the guy for making for comments he made in the privacy of his own home. What I'm upset about is what really grinds my gears is the fact that what he actually said, the comments he said to her, it's just like, hey, listen, I know that you're having, I mean, I'm just going to paraphrase it, that you're having like sexual activity with black men.
Yeah.
You
He
know,
said he
I
didn't mind.
understand
He
that.
doesn't mind.
Yeah, I understand that's what you're gonna do, and that's what the case is. But just don't just don't throw that in my face at my
Publicly.
stadium and
Publicly.
in public. Just please don't do that.
Not to mention, Magic Johnson is associated with an opposing team, no less. Not to mention,
not
he's
even,
associated-
you know, like forget about like that's his girlfriend. First off, that's your girlfriend posing with another man of an opposing franchise.
Yeah,
So to me,
exactly.
that's a major spit in my face. What I would say, I mean, if I were him, I would just be like, why did you do that? Being like, he's not even like he's in an opposing franchise. How do you think that makes me look when the girl that I'm sleeping with is standing there right next to him posing for pictures? But that's not the point I was going to make. The point I was going to make is you wait till now to pull this guy's race card. How about when he was denying houses to African Americans, and the reasoning why, and I quote from Don Sterling years and years ago,
2009.
2009, that black people are smelly and attract vermin. That's exactly what he said. So when he said that, why didn't you pull all of this money away from him? And it wasn't like he said that in the comfort of his own home. He publicly said it.
Yeah.
So why do you wait until now? You know why? And people hate it when I say this, and it's the truth. He was pumping money to the NAACP, and they had no problem giving
He
that
was
man
Man of the Year one year.
Exactly. They had no problem giving that man humanity awards because he was putting millions of dollars into their pocket, and Al Sharpton standing right next to him giving him his awards. You knew he was a crusty old white racist who absolutely wanted nothing to do with African Americans, even living in his own housing projects, and you were okay with it as long as he put money in your fat pocket. But now he's not putting money in your fat pocket. He's actually hooking up with an African American girl in the privacy
And
of his
half
home.
Mexican.
And half Mexican. In the privacy of his own home, just tells her, listen, I don't want you disrespecting me in public, and now $2.5 million, you can't even watch a basketball game. There's actually a meme, and I think it's beautiful. It's funny. It's comedic, but it's great. You have a picture of Don Sterling, and then right below it is a picture of Al Sharpton. It says, makes racist comments, banned for life. Al Sharpton makes racist comments, has his own television show. I mean, what's good for the goose should be good for the egg. Plain and simple. It has to work both ways. If you're going to give them a hard time, give somebody else. Jay-Z just recently, this wasn't years ago, this is like last week, with his wife Beyonce, showed up to a Brooklyn Nets game wearing a seven-star pendant chain, which is affiliated with the Five Percenters. If any of you don't know what the Five Percenters are, okay, it's because you just don't know what's going on. The Five Percenters are a radical racist group that feel that white people are animals that should be controlled and directed and told and tolerated as children. That's exactly verbatim how they feel and how they believe. So let me ask, Jay-Z goes and publicly is wearing something that just shows, hey, listen, I'm not a fan of white people. White people are stupid. When you wear that, that's what you're saying. So how would African Americans like it if Eminem showed up to a hockey game wearing a chain of a radical racist group that's underground? How would people feel? The first thing they would say is, what's that on his neck? And when they found it out, he loses endorsements. He'd lose everything.
Yeah, that'd be like
He'd
if he
lose
came out
everything.
in a purple hood or something.
No, or wore a chain, because you know what? Because it is a difference if, like, say, if Jay-Z wore like the articles of clothing that the Five Percenters wear, and then it's just really blatantly obvious. But he wore the chain with like the 7 pendant on it. So
Something more obscure or something
like,
more,
for example,
something
say if
that's
Eminem,
not as.
say if let's just throw this guy like Forrest something. Say if he was the head of the KKK, and say Eminem wore a chain with his initials on it. You know,
or let's
like,
say
or
if he
something
had
like,
a more subtle tattoo on his hand that was the white power tattoo
yeah,
or something,
like that, then he would lose everything. He'd lose everything. He wouldn't be able to rap again. But it's just like, why is it okay that this happens and that doesn't happen? I mean, like, if he threw the N-word around, if he was like saying disgusting things like what he said about his housing projects, then I would totally agree and be like, yeah, man, the guy clearly is disgusting. But when you have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar going on national television saying, why didn't you get rid of him years ago? Why didn't you do that years ago? Why are you surprised now that he's saying this? And to me, it's the administration. Right now, America's looking like a real tail tucking between the legs kind of lapdog to the rest of the world. Not just like some regions. Your entire world looks at us like a nanny state, guys who wear skinny jeans and mommy hats and driving bicycles with the kids on their back. Like that's how the world looks at us. And instead of focusing on issues that the president is driving us through the ground. We're going to just focus on issues that are just so ridiculous, and all these impressionable idiots listening just turn around and just go, oh, you're absolutely right. It's like, know what you're talking about, know what's going on, and just be like, why aren't we addressing the issue that nothing is happening with the ACA right now? Why aren't we addressing Obamacare? Why aren't we addressing still left Benghazi alone, left the IRS scandal alone, left the unemployment rate alone, left Ukraine, and the fact that Russia is openly invading Ukraine? None of that is being addressed right now. What's being popularized and what's being focused is Don Sterling, super racist, the tyranny of the white man, the tyranny.
Well, I think you
of
just
the
kind of
Caucasian.
hit
Like,
on it
shut
right there.
up.
You just hit on it right there, Frankie. Donald Sterling, he's a usual suspect. That's all. That's really what it comes down to. Somebody like Al Sharpton. He's an unusual suspect. Even though some things that he does are suspect, he doesn't fit the profile of what the media tries to attack. Donald Sterling he's another Zimmerman.
No,
he's just one of those guys.
The thing is he's an older white man, so that way
stuck in his ignorant ways. So he's
That's
great.
what it is.
He's great to paste an entire race to look a certain kind of way. And let's be honest here, folks. White people in general, I'd say maybe 75 to 80% of white people across this country, they are so quick to feel guilty about something.
Which is
so quick to
disgraceful.
feel.
Which
And when
is
you have a
disgraceful.
majority of a population that's very quick to take blame for something that they didn't even do, well, they become an easy target, and it's easy to constantly turn them into a target, and that's exactly what he's been used to do. He's become a target. But I'll tell you this much: as a former attorney, Don Sterling is, and as a guy with a lot of money, the NBA, they're gonna have their hands full with this guy. There's no way he's going down quietly.
Unless he
It's understood. This is not a court of law. He's not going to jail. But in a court of law, if you illegally obtain a recording of somebody, it gets thrown out. You can't just
Plain and
you
simple.
can't just entrap
Which
somebody
is-
in the privacy of their own home
Which
and then think
kills
it's
me.
going to stand. But in the NBA, that will stand because the NBA is its own. It has its own labor agreement. It's its own union. It has its own set of
Oh, so
rules.
that's
So
why they
the
can
law
sue 'em.
of public opinion is what's going to determine how the NBA acts. And why? Is it because the NBA is this moral corporation? No. It's because based on the publicity, the PR backlash that they're going to get from this, you're going to find sponsor after sponsor after sponsor after sponsor that is going to withdraw unless the NBA took a hard stance, which is exactly what they did. So then they get to keep their sponsorship. They get to keep their money. At the end of the day, get off the moral high ground, people. Get off the soapbox. The only reason the NBA struck down so hard is because it became a media fiasco. It picked up its own pace, and they didn't want to lose dollar bills.
And why did it become a media fiasco?
Because that goes more into the broad issue of what you're talking about the society that we live in. Hey, at the end of the day, the things he said, 2009, that housing dispute, that was the largest out of court settlement for a housing dispute in the history of housing disputes in court. The largest out-of-court settlement. But for some reason, that's not really worthy of the front pages. Why?
Why?
But believe it or not, 2009 and 2014 are a vastly different world. Vastly different.
Yeah.
Society's different.
Well,
The
also-
media's control is different. Right now, the administration is knee-deep into their agenda, as opposed to at that time, they were just kind of getting their foot in the door. So it is a vastly different world in only the span of 5 years. And, as you know, just the way American society is, it changes drastically from administration to administration, even from term to term. So at that time, the Obama administration and the media, it being embedded with them, it wasn't quite as powerful, quite as influential. So now there's a little bit more foot ground, there's a little bit more foundation for them to make sweeping changes across the board, whether it be politically, economically, or in this case, in the entertainment industry.
Well put. I mean, also a big reason why that wasn't brought to light is because the organizations that are attacking him now and looking to behead him and publicly hang him were getting paid lots of money.
Well, that's the NAACP. I'm talking more about NBA sponsors. Like
yeah,
we're
no,
talking
no, no.
Nike, just your basic NBA sponsorships. Clearly, they're not going to want to associate with somebody who's
No,
being
no,
painted
no,
in that
no,
fashion.
no.
And listen, paint him justifiably because that's who he is.
That's what he is.
But the reality of the situation is he's always been that.
Yeah,
he's
so-
always been it. It's
so
not
why
like
didn't you do it? Why wasn't the NBA attacking
Mark
him when he
Cuban,
said
the
that?
owner of the Dallas Mavericks, is the only owner to come up and say that he was uncomfortable with the situation because his exact words that he uses, it's a slippery slope. We start taking people's franchise away and banning them from the NBA for life for what they said in the privacy of their own homes. It's a slippery slope. Everybody, I implore you to look at yourself in the mirror and think about things that you've said in the privacy of your own home
Would
and
you
how
have a
you would
job?
feel if you were exposed by your girlfriend to TMZ. How would you feel? And would you feel it's justified that you lost your job for that?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not defending him, but the reality is it is just as much of a low life as this guy is, you have to look at his girlfriend and see the same thing. She is equally as big a low life. So you are you are of the race that he is racist against, and you're totally fine being with him and taking his money. Okay.
Yeah, that's that. Knowing he's racist.
Okay.
So you're the opposite. Well, not the opposite. You're a different race than he is. The race that he just so happens to feel a certain way against, but you have no problem sleeping with him and taking his money at the same time, and then exposing him because you want all of his money. You're a trash bag.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And you're actually worse than he is. in
She's
my
got
opinion.
she's gotten away
You're worse.
unscathed pretty much by the media. The media
Yeah,
has attacked
the media-
Sterling, and he deserves it. But they should at least share some of the love, so to speak, with Ms. V. Stiviano. Please.
Now you know what was great is Juice is gonna absolutely crush the roast today, but I wish it was against Stiviano. Thinking about it right now.
Hey, you know,
Just like a whole-
I threw a little bit at her in my
Don Sterling.
special Sunday night special against Don Sterling. She got in there.
Special, you understand what I'm trying to tell you about, Frankie? You understand what I'm trying to say
Yeah, well, we're gonna take a break. WICR, Home of the Gales, Neighborhood Guys, Frankie Two Times, Jay's Juice.
Catch us on the corner, fresh bocagini, little bit of baguette, crostinis, some
Mozzarella, freshest stuff you can't find in stores. No
Joey,
tribal wars.
You understand, Joey from over there.